Alright, so I got another video here on the HoverAir X1. There's been a recent firmware update, 7.5.1, which added two new features, Sidetrack and Smart Control. But before I get into that, I'll show you those here in a second. I do want to talk about the batteries. There's been, I guess, some people complaining about the batteries puffing. And what happens is the bottom here, which is like this, where the sticker is, it'll start bulging out, and then you'll realize you have a puff battery. If you try and put it on a flat surface with the top up, if you try and spin it, it'll just keep spinning. Mine are still in good condition, and I try and keep mine sort of in the middle in terms of charge level at all times whenever I'm not using it. And basically these lithium batteries, they don't like to be at a low state of charge or a high state of charge. Generally that will start breaking down the chemistry inside. So for example, on this one here, I usually try and keep the light between 2 and 3 on most of the batteries. And so yeah, on this one here, this one should be 2. Yeah, so this one's on 2, that one's on 3, because I just used it recently. If you keep your batteries in that state of charge, either on 2 or 3, when you're not using it, and then charge it all the way up and then use it, and if you say like you go all the way to 0, you don't want to leave the battery at 0. If you do, then the battery will eventually die. You want to, as soon as you're done, go and charge it up, and then charge it up to at least so it has 2 lights, and then take it off the charger if you're not going to be using it for a while, because you don't want to go all the way up and then leave it there. That's also bad for the battery, and it's going to cause it to puff. I generally would recommend not taking the battery all the way to 0 and then having it basically the drone just go out of the sky on you. That's not a good idea for the battery long term. I generally like, so I have 2 here, I'll use one, drain it to maybe like 25%, 20%, and then I'll go ahead and swap batteries and then start charging up this one, so it's at least got 2 lights on the battery bar. Alright, so let's talk about the new features. Go ahead and turn on the HoverAir X1.
Smart Control.
Now go ahead and connect to the drone here. There we go, and I'm connected. So there's these new flight modes in the app. So you're familiar with all the ones that we've talked about before: hover, zoom out, etc., follow or orbit, and bird's eye. Now we have these 2 new ones called Sidetrack and Smart Control. And if you haven't done a lot of flights on your HoverAir X1, these might be locked. So you may need to do some other flights on, say, either dolly track or snapshot or some of the other ones that some of the previous flight modes before it unlocks these and allows you to use them. So just something to keep in mind. So if you go in and click into the flight mode here, you can take a look. And in here you'll have some like a video preview, what it might look like, along with some instructions on how to use it. Also same for Smart Control. You go in here and take a look, and you'll have some tutorial videos on the different gestures you can use to let's go for Smart Control. So there's, I think, 3 main ones. There's the zoom away, which makes the which I'll show you. I'll talk about that here in a minute here with some examples. But basically there's 3. There's zoom away, making it orbit, and then making it land. So I'll talk about those with some examples here in a second, but let's talk about the Sidetrack feature first. So these 2 new features are going to be in the custom flight mode. You can go in here, and then under custom mode, you now have snapshot, dolly track, Smart Control, and Sidetrack. And so you can switch between the different modes here. We'll go ahead and switch to Sidetrack. And of course you have different altitudes for Sidetracks. You have high, flat shot, and low. You have also different distances: close, standard, and far. So I'm just going to show you an example here of me using this on a bicycle. And I found that on basically standard settings, sidetracking is kind of still, I would say, in development. It needs a little bit of work. It has a bit of trouble following you, especially at higher speeds. And you can see here it's tracking me, kind of struggling a little bit to keep me in frame, and I'm kind of off to the side of the frame. And I think for something like a faster moving object, I would, instead of using the standard distance, I would probably try the far distance instead. I don't have enough space to test that because I'm on a street here with other cars, and even on standard distance, I was a little worried that it following me on the side, that it would hit some of the cars on the street. So I actually didn't test that. I think that if it's on the far setting, it'll probably do a better job of tracking you and keeping you in the center. If you're using something like a bicycle like I'm here, I would probably change the altitude from flat shot to low, because you kind of see here that it's a little bit on the high side. But if you're walking around, I'd say that the standard settings of flat shot and standard distance, it works pretty well. So you can see here is an example of me walking, and it seems to do a good job at slower speeds if you're just doing sort of like this walking type of thing. If you're on some sort of a motorized vehicle, bicycle, e-bike, skateboard, something like that, one wheel, and you're going a bit faster, if you're running, you probably want to move the drone a little bit further away so it'll have an easier time keeping you in frame. So just something to keep in mind on the Sidetrack feature. Pretty sure they're still working on improving that. We'll see as firmware updates come out. Okay, so here's an example of me using the smart control feature. So basically you launch the drone, and then when the light turns white, you're going to give it a gesture, and you'll see here what I'm doing. To send it away, to zoom out, you're gonna basically kind of wave your arms and point it away, and then it'll capture the gesture and then perform the zoom out feature or whatever it is that you're trying to tell it to do. There's another feature where you can give it a gesture of either waving your right arm to the right or your left arm to the left, and then it will do an orbit in that direction. So here's an example where I'm sending the drone in one direction. I think it's to the right here, and then of course you can do it the other way. If you want to send it to the left, you can do that as well. And then here's the footage from that orbiting to the left. If you raise your arm straight up above your head and hold there for a second, it will basically send the drone straight up. I think that's the bird's eye function. So that'll go up, and then I'll point the camera down. One of the nice things about the smart control feature is once it starts filming you, it just basically keeps recording. So in some of the other modes, if you do one function, it'll start that, it'll record, and then when it's done, it'll stop that clip, and you'll have one clip for that. Whereas when you're using smart control, you can actually have it perform multiple functions, and it'll record one long video file. So that might be, I think, I don't know, some people might disagree, but I think that's actually better. So you can actually record all the things that are happening in between, and then you can cut out the stuff that you don't want. Yeah, so that's basically it in terms of the new functions here, Sidetrack and Smart Control. Pretty cool. I definitely like the Sidetrack feature. I think I'm going to play around a little bit more because I do want to use it for my e-bike review videos. I think that'll come in handy, but I'm a little bit concerned about the distance that I have to have it at, so I might have to be in a more open area than I normally ride my bikes at. But yeah, I'm glad that they're updating the drone and putting on new features, making it better. If you guys want to check out my original review, I will put that down in the video description, and hopefully you find the video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. That'll do it for this video. I'll talk to you guys in the next one.